I created a program called Rich Speak, which I took all the years of all the people that trained me in how to speak, present, and converse, one-on-one, one to few, one to many, and I put it into a program. And the reason why I believe that that program is by far the best sales program is because a big function of sales is how one relates to others, whether one-to-one, one to few, or one to many. And so in this era, in this age, and you know this better than me and better than most, is social media and those platforms amplifies your ability to speak. And whether it's conversational or whether it's instructional or whether it's instrumental, though that's the skill set that really gets stepped over. And I believe that's the skill set that I train a lot of people on with a lot of professional prowess.
What it is, Brad Lea back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. And as always, folks, today I got a real treat for you. Richard Dolan in the house. What's happening?
My man, we finally did it.
Finally did it. A lot of people wanted us to meet for some reason.
I know. It must be they wanted the beer club to start, the beard club to start. And they knew that two bearded brothers like us that belonged in a studio like this.
Folks, if you guys don't know who he is, go check him out on social media at Richard Dolan. A lot of you probably do know who he is, or go to richarddolan.com. You know, he's got a podcast of his own called Courageous Conversations. It's always epic. You know, he's tied in with all kinds of celebs. His history is like you wonder how a guy ended up in such a beautiful spot. You know, originally out of Toronto, Canada, operates out of New York City. You know, coach, mentor, author, speaker, I would say inventor, confidant,
Innovator,
disruptor, wealth manager. See, like all those, nope, I'm a wealth manager. All that's just extra stuff.
You bet.
And like you're in town because of what?
I'm in town because it's the NBA Summer League. I've got some real great opportunities cooking for the exiting years of LeBron James's career, where his chief performance advisor, his health coach, his nutrition advisor, the guy who's trained him, built him, and has helped him succeed for 20 seasons, Mike Mancius and I have partnered up to create a recovery clinic in honor of those 20 years, those 2 decades of what it means to be an all-star athlete. So we're here to get business done.
So you're tied into all kinds of things. Now, you also have Rich University. Is that basically how you get rich?
Hey, listen, man, I'm so lucky that I got this name called Richard. And so to call it Rich U is not just about me, but it's about you. And so, yeah, it's a LMS. It's a learning management software system. We have an online school where everything, like anybody in our position, Brad, you and I, those who are coaches, mentors, trainers, who've got IP and things to share and tell people. I mean, we park it there so that we don't have to keep teaching it live and putting people in the rooms to drink coffee made at 2:00, served at 7. It's a great place for people to be and access. And it's been really powerful, especially since the pandemic, when events weren't happening and doing them together in person wasn't happening either.
Where were you when the pandemic broke?
Ironically, I was actually here in Las Vegas. I was here in Las Vegas for GrowthCon on behalf of Grant Cardone, our friend, who could also be a part of the Bearded Brothers Club too, by the way. He carries a good beard. Not as sharp as ours, but I digress. And it was his GrowthCon. It was a GrowthCon, and the pandemic had already started making waves in the world. And right when it hit and it shut down Vegas, about a week thereafter, I'll always remember that I was actually here in your very good city.
But because you're Canadian, no?
That's right. Born and raised in Canada.
They didn't make you go back?
Oh, heck, listen, I think now all these years later, we just finally came out of a pandemic. Canada was...
Canada's still in one.
There, of course, of different degrees and for different reasons.
They got a bad pandemic up there. I think it's called like Trudeau or something like that. Oh,
you're close. It's called rising interest rates and burning trees. But I mean, that's just the beginning of it. But without digressing much more, Brad, I mean, the reality is that Canada really handled the pandemic both poorly but longly. They stayed in a lockdown literally for nearly 2 years.
Being in your business, you're probably very sensitive to being politically incorrect.
I think that's part of the Canadian nature. I mean, I've got a father who was Ukrainian. I got a mother who's South American. So although I was born in Canada, I do identify as a Canadian. And we are known as the 3 C's, Brad. We're known as the cheap, the conservative, and the chicken. And so we don't want to walk those tough lines. And we don't want to start having polarizing conversations amongst friends, business associates, or clients, because we know how charged they can be. But Canada's changing. They've definitely gotten a little bit racier and edgier with some of their political values and views. So
let me elevate the professionalism for a moment.
Let's do that then. Do I drop my voice an octave?
You can.
Okay, let's go.
When we could I'll probably put on the headphones and sound much better. But
Likely.
These headphones on make to.
I know, but then you ask yourself, do I want to sound great or do I want to keep my hair looking good? It's a tough question.
Well, I find myself with the headphones on. I find myself always coming down here and talking a little more like this, like a DJ, like a night DJ.
Well, what I like about your setup is we're talking to each other. We're talking to each other. So if we were talking through the headphones, then we're talking for, the ego of hearing our voices.
Well, one day I said, why are we wearing these headphones? Because people don't like them. Do I got to wear these? You think you look worse in them? So I'm like, I guess you don't have to wear them. The only reason I had them was to get the bomb. So I told my audio guys, listen, I want to be able to hear the bomb without the headphones.
I heard that.
And not only that, if I want.
Oh, there you go.
I got everything controlled.
There
so I'm
you
like,
go.
we don't need no damn headphones.
I like that. And by the way, you look younger with the headphones off, just so you know. I never thought I'd ever have the chance to tell you in person, but you do look much younger without the headphones on.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's funny. Now, I say I'm going to raise it up a smidge in professionalism so I can get some value on to the Bomb Squad. The Bomb Squad's the listeners. You have Rich University. You teach people how to get rich. Your book, Richology, The 7 Steps to Unleashing Your Imagination and Designing a Great Financial Life, plus your wealth management skills, all of these lead to your ability to show other people how to at least financially succeed. What would you have the average Joe do? What am I going to learn? What courses am I going through first? What's the most important thing? How about your mindset? How important is that?
Listen, first and foremost, I'm so grateful to the Bomb Squad. I'm grateful for their listenership, and I'm just grateful to be here with you. For me, I know and knew that when I was growing up as a high school dropout in a middle-class family, that financial future was not something that was going to be given or granted. It had to be created and caused. And as a result, you thought to yourself, okay, great, what do? You make some money, you find someone you think is smart, is licensed and capable of making smart money decisions for you and your financial future. So you build these financial plans and you invest in this thing called the stock market, and you buy mutual funds you never know that own stocks that you've never seen, in businesses you don't even understand. And then, of course, 5, 10, 15 years goes by and you wonder to yourself, what happened to that money I put away for all those years? Where did it amount to? So I began to learn that your financial life is your responsibility. Your financial life is your responsibility. So as much as there's a lot of money mentors out there and financial commentators, they're all talking about the actionability of financial life planning, as in, hey, work hard, save your money, invest, spend less. But the function of that, the actual real truth behind it is like, what do you really literally do? So you're right. The basis of my urban financial life philosophy, which I called Richology, was just my own personal devised thinking on what I observed billionaires that I'd worked with, millionaires that I was working alongside of, icons, legends, and even gods of industry, as I've described to you earlier on, gods of industry, commerce, sport, and industry.
That's a pretty high name. Who would be a god of industry?
I think Drake is the god of music.
Yeah,
I think
that'd be a good one.
That's a good one. I think it's a real possibility to say that another god of sport could be someone along the lines of a LeBron James.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Or a Michael Jordan. Gods of culture, of sport, and of commerce isn't about being something of a religious factor. It's to say that these are people who are second to none.
Like goats.
Which
coincidentally, the origination of the word God, you go way back, goes to goad, which goes way back to goat.
And I think saying goat is less intimidating than saying God. So
greatest of all times, the goat I'm talking about. Come out.
Let's go.
There's only one of those. There can only be one in each category.
This is true.
What are you the goat of?
Well, if I was going to be the goat of anything, it would definitely have to be in the world of human betterment. In the human betterment business, I think I have to be a living demonstration of what it is I teach, I preach.
Don't you think that's lucky though? That's lucky that you have to be, because then you get to go live what you're preaching.
Well, you choose to live as you're preaching and teaching, leading and talking. At the end of the day, it's easy to talk it. It's another thing to live it. I think the greatest way to, in fact, be the best version of yourself is to be a coach, is to be a speaker.
Well, I know you helped out Grant Cardone a bunch of ways, and you're no longer in that camp.
I'm no longer in that camp, but I'm a huge admirer of the 10X movement.
I'm surprised he's not bothering you if you're in the coaching and mentoring any kind of space, because kind of that's what he does, and usually he's like, wait, that's what I do.
Listen, if I was Grant and I'm not, I'm just not Grant. But the reality is that I don't think he sees anyone as competition, and quite frankly, nor should he. He's a brand of his own, and he's an icon of that industry.
Yes, he is.
And so,
of what industry, by the way?
I would say the personal development and professional development industry.
Dude. Oh, yeah. Sure. He's but now I think he's starting to lean out of it. Meaning, nobody really looks at Grant Cardone anymore as a sales pro.
Well,
there's new sales pros out there that are just like they'll eat his lunch.
Well,
Grant
some of them,
right now is a industry titan in the real estate game.
Possible.
Is he, by the way? Because that's a big game, isn't it?
That's a big game. First of all, that's a loaded statement you just made, Brad. First of all, you call him a titan. I mean, let's not make this a debate. If he's a titan, that would be great.
Isn't he? We have to define the word titan.
What would you define a titan as?
I think Grant's a titan.
Well, then great.
But only because, I've saw where he came from. Like, dude, the guy's doing extremely, extremely well. And in that industry, I'm not in that industry. There might be people that like, oh, he's a little puppy. So I don't know. But if you're in wealth management, you probably do know.
Well, again, so if it depends on how you define titan. If you're defining titan in terms of size, breadth, and depth, then hey, maybe he might be a qualified preemie if it were to a titan. Because I'm having breakfast this morning with a gentleman who's multi-billionaire that built the resort world. He's got dozens of those around the world. Is he a titan? I would qualify that he's likely a titan.
That's a titan.
Someone who can build,
but not titan in real estate.
That guy I talked to this morning is a titan in real estate, but he can build and buy cities. So I think
would he be considered a developer?
That particular person could, but I think someone by definition a titan, someone who influences direction of cities and their futures in the real estate game. So not making this about Grant because, of course, first and foremost, God bless him for the work that he does. He's really represents a lot of people into what it means to put yourself at the source of your own success, to not be a little bitch, as he would say, to not think small. Mediocrity is not the game plan. He's done incredible work. His team has, from Jared to Sherry to Courtney, and others in that camp have done extraordinary work. And probably the one person that's done the most and has not gotten the notice for it is Elena Cardone. If there's definitely someone who deserves greatest supporting actress in the movie called Grant Cardone, it'd be Elena. Yeah,
she's nice.
She's beyond nice. She's capable. She's brave. She's courageous. She's committed. Yeah. She's the ultimate testament of what resolve looks like because, Grant's the leader and he might be in your terms the titan, but she's a mom and she's a wife and a leader and an author and an influencer
and a boss.
And so I think that's something worth noting. But back to your point around titans and what's happened with Grant and I. Grant and I had a lot of great times together working on his global domination plans for his licensing program. His brand was quite rich. It was definitely out there and very valuable. And he needed to monetize that. He needed to mobilize that. So turning his brand, his reach, his level of relevancy in the marketplace into a very tangible, commercially viable platform was very important. And I'd done a lot of work for Dragon's Den, Shark's Tank, and other licensed platforms. So doing that for him was not just simple, it was an honor. And we did our work. We pulled through, we 5X'd his licensee community worldwide. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the experience or the people that we helped. And it says a lot about that 10X community.
Yeah, well, it's a hell of a community.
It is a hell of a community.
They're loyal. But now we got the Richies. What do we call the Richies?
Well, listen, man, the Richies are cool. They're cool. You got your bomb squad, and then you got your Richies.
Are we calling them Richies?
We can call them Richies. I think Richies is cool.
Dude, everybody wants to be a Richie.
Hey, listen, people don't want to be Pories. They don't want to be. There's no book out there that says mastering mediocrity, Brad. There's no mediocrities, right? There's Richies.
Now, if someone were to say to you, what's the first thing I can do to again, there's 7 steps. Mm-hmm. What is the first step?
I think the first step is really understanding what it is your life's intention is. I think everything starts there. Right there is the keystone, Brad. If you find out what your life's intention is, some people call that your life's mission, your life's purpose, your life's quest, your destiny. All these wonderful terms that people like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and Stephen Covey had really coined. But if you understand your life's intention, what were you born with and the gifts that you've been given and have gotten and have fortified that can really light you up every day. So you never experience life like a thing to do or work to get to, but you get to do it with such joy. That's the first key. is finding out what your life's intention. So for example, when I did that work, I got to tell you, I got to be really frank. It was tough for me to understand that because I thought it was very, very intangible. I'm not an aura guy. I wasn't an energy guy. So when someone says, what's your calling, Rich? I'm like, well, I'm called to make money. I mean, I'm called to make money and make a difference. But when I was asked, well, how do you love feeling when you do that? What's the impact you make in the world that if you got to experience it on a repeatable, consistent basis, that would leave you lit up? And I said, right there, that all people are lit up. When I'm lit up, then I know other people are lit up. And so I live my life and I lead from that life's intention called all people are lit. So if I'm not lit, you won't be lit. So if I'm always lit, then I'm lighting. And that's just one example. So I think that's the first step. The first step is really understanding your life's intention. Once you get that dialed in, everything else follows suit.
Do you help people like me come up with my own IP? In other words, like, a lot of people say, Brad, you should be coaching, you should be mentoring, you should be doing all this. But I always say, listen, I don't have the programs. Like, do I have the stuff up here? Yes. But like, I don't bullshit people at all. So if like you came to me and you said, Brad, how you have a coaching program I could join? I'd be thinking, well, what can I teach you, bro? You already know the shit. Like what? But in reality, if you create some IP, some curriculum, I could say, well, Richard, if I could just, have 3 weeks to show you this, then I'd take your money. So how do you help people build their IP, their programs, their courses?
Well, you know that in that beautiful green room of yours, as we got to know each other, one of the challenges that you had, and I witnessed it, and I see it always, where as an investment banker by training, as a wealth management student as I am, as someone who studied human behaviors, behavioral finance, happiness economics, investor resilience, topics I've taught on and I've been published in. What's interesting is that understanding how business works and humans' relationship to those businesses was something I just immersed myself in very thoroughly. And I have to say with some prowess, why that's important is that when I would meet celebrities, whether they were an NBA basketball star who's just about to hit retirement, whether they're an actor that thinks they've done their last and final film of their career because they've just like had it with Hollywood, a musician that doesn't feel like they've got that gift anymore, or they don't have people powerfully moved by their music any longer, whatever it might be, and they're not quite clear on what's next, I was really good and remained powerfully at causing and creating futures for people. And what it was about was really understanding first what their life intention was, but more importantly, finding out where the commercial viability of what they've got left could still be extrapolated and monetized further. So in your case, as you asked me, if we were to sit down and I really got to know your gifts, your skills, your abilities, but also what the market wanted, what your fans wanted, what the bomb squad wanted, what your followers and faithful and friends wanted, and we were able to curate out of your IP what it was that we can deliver, then that becomes a very cool commercial collaboration of ours. That's what I can do. And that's what I've done.
Yeah, well then let's collaborate.
Then we should do that. 100% we should do that.
Oh, dude, trust me, man. If you could walk in and say, hey, poof, and all of a sudden I'm not slick, but as cool as you. See?
Oh, come on now.
You ready to rock and roll?
Listen, I can't promise everything now.
But I like, like you're lit. That's IP.
100%.
The way you explain things, that's IP. And I think people, draw towards me for one reason. They know that I'm going to tell the way it is, and I think that's the trust that connects. And so they're like, they may not want to learn how to get rich from me, even though I could teach them, but they do trust who I say they should learn from.
Now, you just hit the nail on the head. When you talk about trust, you understand there's 4 dimensions of trust. And now for all those who are listening, this is important, especially if you're a dad, if you're a wife, if you're a mom or a dad with several kids or none of your kids, even if you're someone who has employees or you're employed or you're a leader like Brad, trust has 4 dimensions. Brad, this is big. The reason why you need to understand 4 dimensions is because sometimes when we say the word trust, it's like if someone breaks your trust, all is lost. But understanding the 4 dimensions gives you access to the various dimensions that makes it up. Let me share. The first dimension, which you have, is that you're competent. So the first requirement, the first dimension of trust is competence. There's no doubting that you're a capable, competent guy. or someone like a Grant Cardone is, as we talked about quite lengthily about, or myself in certain domains of expertise. When you demonstrate competence, you have the skill set and the ability to deliver expertise on a topic. The second dimension, though, is reliability. You are as reliable as a Swiss kept clock. I mean, that's the truth. You're consistent, you deliver value, and every time people tune in, I just shared this with you when we were in the green room, watching your posts, I can always count on your posts being a value. I mean that. So when you're reliable and you're competent, there's a lot of trust. But the third dimension is truth. Very rare have I ever heard anybody say, that Brad, he ain't truthful. And when people detect lying.
You said rarely.
Rarely.
Yeah, that means you've heard it.
Well, I'm leaving the window open. I'm leaving the window open.
Just in case?
Just in case.
Yeah.
I'm keeping you on notice.
You're very politically correct as well.
Well, I'm also an opportunist. I want to keep the dialogue open. So truth though, Brad, check this out.
Did you just open loop me?
I did.
That was an open loop.
And you're welcome. So back to me. Truth are facts, right? Truth are facts, not fantasy. But like, if you're going to show up on time, that's a reliability issue. But if you said you're going to show up on time and you come back and you say you weren't going to, then that's a truthful issue. But there's a fourth, and here it comes. This is the greatest gift I can give you in the time that we've got together. The fourth dimension, it's a non-trainable one, is heart. When people know you've got heart, and Brad, you've got it. You know you do. You've got heart. You care, genuinely care about people. When people know that you care, they don't care what you know. And that fourth dimension is a tough one, because what can happen is if there's a breakdown in a relationship, you can ask yourself now, well, hold on a second. Were they competent? Was it a matter of their competence, or was it a matter of they just didn't show up on time? Or were they just downright distruthful, or don't they care? I had a horrible renovator that did great work. He was super competent, but never showed up on time, didn't get the work done like he said he would, right? And I got to tell you something, it made me question, was he a truthful person? But the one thing I can never, ever, ever discount, that guy cared. He did things that a renovator just wouldn't typically do. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So rather than saying I don't trust this person because he's not on time, not on schedule, not on budget, I can say, look, I know you care, right? I know sometimes you make it and sometimes you don't. I know you're skillful because look at what you built, but you're not showing up on time. And that makes me wonder, are you truthful with me? So can we handle that before we lose all trust? So when you have four dimensions, you can access the conversation in various ways to fix it, correct it, if not re-establish it. Make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, man.
The question is, does it make sense to you? But if it doesn't, hit rewind, fool. Listen to that again. It makes perfect sense. So what's your favorite, like out of all your accomplishments, what's your favorite, most prideful accomplishment?
Listen, man, I'm going to break my own rule. And it's a cardinal rule, but I got to break it because you got me present to it. Is definitely my son. My son's my definite greatest accomplishment. I mean, what wonderful way to take a look at who you are by means of seeing how your children show up in the world. And so without getting into too much detail, he's a 16-year-old boy, so I'll leave him to be both private and keep his life personal. But to me, that would be my immediate answer. My immediate answer is to see what kind of...
That means you're pretty proud of him.
100%. 100% for sure.
And you give yourself a little, that's right, I did that.
Well, it's a little bit of a sigh of relief too. It's like, phew, we made it. I mean, 16 years later, he's not.
He could have went sideways too, though.
Oh, and listen.
And by the way, I wouldn't judge it because sometimes a lot of people are quick to judge parents because of the kids. It's not always the parents.
No, it's not. And by the way, when you're talking about people and their kids, since we're talking about that, there's no room for judgment of any human being. These opportunities are merely self-assessment opportunities.
He should run for president, shouldn't he?
But you get what I'm saying, though, Brad. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if someone says,
good.
I don't want you to judge me. There's no right you've got. But let me take this opportunity to say, where did I go wrong, and what could have I course corrected, and what can I now reestablish or recreate with my son or daughter if things are off track? Listen, man, we are the authors of our only book, and the only person that really gives a shit about it is us. So if we're the only ones writing it, and we're the only ones that are really reading it, why should we care about who is judging it? It doesn't matter. Their judgment means nothing, and there's zero impact nor gravity that it has in those conversations.
Hey, speaking of our beards, you have a little gray in yours as well.
Yeah,
see a
plenty.
little gray in here.
Yes, indeed.
I'm fortunate. My gray's just coming in. So again, like you're 49?
49.
Your age, I didn't have hardly any. But here it comes. How come you see people out there coloring their hair?
I think.
Are they insecure? Do they not realize that it's not fooling anybody? Or do they genuinely think that the hair color matters?
I think, look, man, Lululemon changed it all. I mean, they made poor butts look great and belly guts go gone. I mean, at the end of the day, we're living in an age of vanity, my friend. So
you believe silver fox is in?
I believe, first of all, I'm a huge advocate for anything silver. There's no such thing as gray. Well, silver is a precious metal. Gray is just a color. So, I mean, let's keep semantics aside. You get what I'm saying? But truth be told, I mean, we're in the age of vanity. So if we don't do things that are going to make you feel good, feel happy, feel empowered, then when would you? I mean, there's a very definitive period of time in your life when you should feel great, feel young, feel invincible.
Well, I was thinking about, getting rid of the grays. Let's see what it looks like. You have grays.
I got grays.
Why haven't you?
Well, first of all, that's a great assumption that you're making, that I've not made any attempts of any kind to dampen the silvering.
How would you if there's gray?
Well, I wouldn't devise these secrets of both beauty and the preservation of ego. But all kidding aside, listen, Brad, I mean, if you want to dye your hair, you can. But I think right now what people need to do is own their wisdom. And wisdom comes with years. And at the end of the day, we should wear these silvers like they're badges of honor, really, because it's taken time, effort, energy, loss, victories, triumphs, letdowns to get to that color. So I think it's all perspective. If we shift the perspective, you might shift the view of how it's valuable. When you had nothing to talk about, nothing to look forward to, yeah, gray looks tired. It starts feeling old. And all of a sudden you start wondering about retirement and wondering where you should be heading off to. So it's all just perspective. And I think if we shift that, then we can shift how we view things.
That's a bomb right there. Perspective. I try to tell people all the time, like, perspective's literally the secret sauce. There could be two people in same situation, one happy, one upset. Same situation. How is it possible that one's happy and one's upset?
Totally. Look at just recently in your country where there's this incredible floodwaters, historical highs. There's this one reporter, ABC News, reports down in this one little town right there in Vermont and pulled over a man and said, "Sir, how are you guys keeping? How are you managing with these incredible stormwaters?" He goes, "Gosh, I don't know how we're going to do it. We've been devastated. Hundreds of years of progress in our city is now gone, vanished, just annihilated. Don't know where we're going to begin. Don't even know how normal's going to come back." She walks down the street, finds another man, and he's just cleaning up stuff. She goes, "Sir, how are you making out during these flood times?" And he goes, "Oh, this is a fantastic time. I've met neighbors I've never known before, and I've known neighbors forever, and we're now fucking stronger than ever." Pardon my language, but that's what he said, and they bleeped him out, so I hope you bleep me out there too.
We don't bleep.
But he was on fire. He was lit. He goes, "This community came together. We're going to reinvent our town. We're going to put in a practice on how we deal with floodwaters going forward because they ain't going to stop. And I'm excited that this town will get stronger as a result of this devastating natural disaster." Same incident, two different perspectives. And the question becomes, which perspective is more empowering? The one that robs you of your self-expression and the ability to move on and forge forward, or the one that's going to empower you and those around you to say, "You know what, this is okay. Look at who we've become because of it." And I think that if anyone were to look at perspective as a conversation piece, Brad, is you just ask yourself, really and ultimately, anybody you admire, look up to, and wish to emulate have likely gone through some real tough things. And if they haven't, then you likely wouldn't admire them.
So how do you develop a perspective of abundance and opportunity?
Oh, brother, it's easy, man. Whatever you're committed to, your body will follow. Whatever you're committed to, your body will follow. And a lot of people just on a daily basis just don't know what they're committed to.
Like when people start diets.
Well, think about it, man. And this machine up here has been perfecting only one act over 3 million years. Only one. That's to survive. That's it. Not to be happy, not to be content, not to be exciting, motivated, inspired, or inspiring. Just one act. And when you think about 3 million years of just perfecting that one act, everything else is generated. So you want to wake up inspired. You want to wake up going out there and going for a run, a jog, or going to the gym like you do, or Mike Tyson works out. Then that's all a generative act. Because whatever you're committed to, your body will follow. So when people realize that you've got to generate commitment, you've got to generate choice, that is all a self-authorship act. And when you do that and not lean on anyone else to do that for you, then you start getting to the source of results rather than chasing them. You want to be at the source of the results, not chasing them.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Now, there's obviously 7 steps, but they can buy the book if they want to keep going down that road.
Well, it's free. It's even better. It's free.
What do you mean?
Well, Richology is free. It's at my website, richarddolan.com. So you can go there and pick it up for free.
Well, that's nice of you.
Well, that's a bomb.
Huh?
That's a bomb.
Why? Is this free? That ain't bomb.
The bomb's free too.
Bombs was was designed to make people pay attention. So I'll give it a bomb. So they should pay attention. Free, dude, free. Because I always tell people, listen, if you want to change what you're getting, change what you're doing. If you want to change what you're doing, you have to change what you believe. Because you have to. If you want to change what you believe, you need new information. Because you can't change your beliefs with the same information. Isn't that weird? So you just got to get new information, and it's in that book. Now, people listen to your podcast. What are they going to listen to?
Well, the podcast that I've been running for a number of years was called The Courageous Conversation because it was born out of the pandemic. So I don't know if you knew the story, but when we were in lockdown, like you couldn't even go out. You barely could go for a walk. And so what I began to do is called up friends of mine that were authors and speakers, celebrities and icons, and said, hey, how are you doing? How are you making out in this pandemic? And I interviewed people like Grant and Elena and also Mike Tyson and the late, oh my goodness, his name just Larry David.
What do you mean the late Larry David?
Larry King, my apologies. Let me
I was going to say, shit, Larry David.
I know that. Oh man, I'm going to hear from Larry David's office now saying you just killed him off in a show. No, I meant Larry King, the beloved Larry King, and others. Marlon Wayans. I just reached out to everybody that I knew and said, hey, everyone's in lockdown and we're going to pour ourselves a drink. Either it's a glass of tea, an iced tea, or a Arnold Palmer, and just hear how you're doing. Let's have a courageous conversation, how you're coping. So that's where Courageous Conversation started. Courageous Conversation started by interviewing the Tony Hawks and the David Hasselhoffs of the world to say, hey, how are you doing? How are you making out during these real tough, odd, bizarre times? So the show continues. I'll probably do an interview maybe a month now, but we're looking forward to recalibrating it and bringing it back.
So